They say you should always trust your gut, that little voice in the back of your mind that tells you when something isn't right. I ignored mine for too long. But that night I listened. And what I saw changed everything. It all started with a simple request. "Can you pick me up at 11 o'clock?" Madison had asked, smiling sweetly as she got ready for the party. "I don't want to drink and drive, and it's just going to be a girls' night. Nothing crazy." I had no reason to doubt her. Or so I thought. I kissed her goodbye, told her to have fun, and watched as she walked out the door, looking stunning in the tight black dress she had bought just a week earlier. I should have been thinking about how lucky I was. Instead, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That nagging sensation crawled up my spine, whispering that something wasn't adding up. And that's when I made a decision. I was going to show up early. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I needed to see for myself. At exactly 10 o'clock, I pulled up outside the venue. The music thumped from inside, the bass vibrating through the pavement. People stood around outside, laughing, drinking, completely oblivious to the fact that I was about to have my entire world shattered. I took a deep breath, stepped out of the car and walked inside. Party was packed. Dim lighting. A haze of alcohol and sweat in the air. Loud music. Flashing lights. People pressed together on the dance floor. And then, in the middle of it all, I saw her. Madison. But she wasn't with her friends. She wasn't just having fun. She was wrapped around another man. My breath caught in my throat. Her hands rested on his shoulders. Her body pressed against his like they were the only two people in the world. His hands were on her waist, pulling her closer. She was smiling, whispering something in his ear, tilting her head the way she used to do with me. And then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife even deeper, she ran her fingers through his hair and laughed, the same laugh that used to be mine. I felt my entire body go numb. She had no idea I was standing there. No idea I was watching as she threw away our relationship in real time. And at that moment, as I clenched my fists and forced myself to breathe, I made a silent promise. She thought she was in control. She thought she could lie to my face, call me at 11 o'clock, and pretend like this never happened. But tonight I was the one in control. She just didn't know it yet. I stood there, frozen, watching the woman I loved in another man's arms. Madison had told me this was just a girls' night, nothing serious. But here she was, laughing, swaying her hips against him, whispering in his ear like they had a secret no one else knew. My pulse pounded in my ears, but I forced myself to stay calm. This wasn't the time for emotions. This was the time for proof. She thought she could get away with it. That I would show up at 11 o'clock like a clueless fool and never suspect a thing. I pulled out my phone, my hand steady as I opened the camera. One tap and the video started recording. Caught everything. The way her fingers traced his jaw. The way she let him hold her like she was his. The way she smiled up at him like he was the only man in the room. The Madison I thought I knew didn't exist anymore. This was someone else. Someone who didn't care if she broke my heart. I could have confronted her right then. Could have walked up, tapped her on the shoulder, and watched the color drain from her face. But no. That was too easy. She had spent weeks, maybe months, lying to me. I wasn't going to let her off that easy. Instead, I slipped through the crowd, keeping my distance but never taking my eyes off her. She was completely lost in her little world, too busy entertaining her secret lover to notice I was still watching. The guy she was dancing with leaned in, whispering something in her ear. She giggled, nodding, and then she grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the back of the club. My jaw clenched, but I followed. She wasn't just drunk flirting. She was making a decision that would cost her everything. They disappeared into a quieter hallway near the VIP lounge where fewer people were around. I stopped just around the corner, my phone still recording as she wrapped her arms around him again. He leaned in, his lips grazing her cheek, his hands gripping her waist. I knew what was coming next. And just before it happened, I stepped out of the shadows. She didn't notice me at first. But the moment I said her name, Madison, Her entire body went still. She turned slowly, her expression shifting from carefree joy to pure horror in a matter of seconds. Her hands were still on him. His arms were still wrapped around her waist. But now her eyes were locked on me. Wait, panic. Her lips parted but nothing came out. I tilted my head, keeping my voice calm, controlled. You said you were having a girls' night. The guy, her secret fling, finally realized something was wrong. He glanced between us, confusion written all over his face. Who's this? Madison jerked away from him so fast you'd think he had burned her. She stepped toward me, shaking her head. Alex, I can explain. I let out a breathy laugh, holding up my phone. No need. I got everything I need right here. Her face drained of color as she realized what I meant. She lunged for my phone. Wait, just let me talk to you. I pulled it back before she could grab it. Talk. Oh, now you want to talk. I gave her a cold smirk. Because 10 minutes ago, you looked pretty damn comfortable talking to him instead. The guy, who was now smart enough to realize he was in the middle of something bad, held up his hands. Yo man, I didn't know she was with anyone. I turned to him, my jaw tight. I bet she didn't tell you a lot of things. His expression flickered with discomfort. Then he turned on her. Wait. You're in a relationship. Madison shot him a desperate look. It's complicated. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. No, Madison. It's actually really simple. She had probably never planned to get caught. Thought she could keep playing her little game forever. But the game was over. And I was the one who was going to end it for good.